Hey guys, I wanted to share with you just a few more things about the law and the commandments and the Spirit of Christ that we now possess as children of God. Okay, in the Old Testament, what we would call the Old Testament, it's called the Tanakh in Hebrew. It is sectioned up. I've seen some that were sectioned into 5 sections, and I've seen some that were sectioned into 3. And usually it's 3. The Torah is the first 5 books. That would be Genesis through Deuteronomy. And then you're going to have your minor prophets and your major prophets are the other 2. I've known some people to say that the Old Testament is called the Torah. It's not called the Torah. The Old Testament is called the Tanakh. The Torah was the Mosaic Law. The first 5 books is what they reference as the book of Moses, but it's really God that gave Moses the word. So anyways, to make a long story short, the Lord gives the children of Israel in the wilderness these instructions. I like to use the word instructions. I know when people hear the word law, they like to run. And it was to make a point. It was to show them how sinful they were. And it was to lead them to the spirit of faith. All the while, we see in the end that they still didn't make it to the promised land after seeing miracle after miracle. So what it was doing was not what the Lord had intended it to do. The Lord intended the law to be good for the children of Israel and for all those that become believers in God. And it was one of Satan's tools because he is very fleshly, and we know that when we act out in the flesh, it is the sin nature. And that's where Satan likes to keep us bound. I use this reference. It would be like me making cough syrup, and I intend it to cure coughs. And I mean for the cough syrup to be used for the betterment of somebody. But when cough syrup became manipulating, or was manipulated from its original purpose, per se, it can be used for evil or for wrong. That's what I like to think of as the instruction that the Lord gives us in the law, in the Torah. It was something that was intended for good that man made bad. In a sense that it kept them from seeing the Spirit of God and to love and to have faith and do their works out of faith, not to earn a righteous flesh type of faith, because it's not faith. You can't show your works in a sense to gain faith. Because you have faith, you do your works. So they were just, they had it mixed up, is the best way I can put it. And the point of the whole 10 Commandments and the law is the 10 Commandments are what I like to think of is the summarized 613 laws. There's actually a few more. But guys, remember that the laws that were given to Sadducees, Pharisees, there was just a group of them. Jebusites and, all those kind of Moabites and those type of people. And some were given to men, and some were given to women, and some were given to children, and there were some that were given to maidservants. So all these laws that everybody, looks at that and goes, there's so many. There really isn't that many when you pick out the ones that pertain to you in an honest manner. But the 10 Commandments summed them all up, and I believe this is the reason why the Lord used his finger to write these in stone. Because the spirit of all of those laws can be summed up in those commands. And these are going to be the judgments that will be used against what was done righteously and unrighteously. I mean, Paul makes a statement. He says, I never knew sin if it wasn't for the law. I mean, and Paul was a he was taught under, there was 2 different types of law. I'm thinking it was the Hillel that he was taught under. It might have been the S one. I can't think of it right now. But anyways, he was taught under the law. So when he is talking to these people, a lot of people don't know the context of which Paul is speaking from. He was a lawyer, so he's speaking, he's kind of hard to understand, but it is because he's so smart. He was taught under a rabbi that was very, he was good. He was a good instructor. But as we see, even being under the law and doing everything like he was doing, he was still crucifying Jesus' people. And, you know the story. But the point is that we now, as believers in Jesus Christ, we now have those on our heart and our mind. And Jeremiah 31 speaks of this, and I want y'all to go there. I want to show you guys. Yes, in verse 31. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it on their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. They shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and will remember their sin no more. And I mean, that's the fact that we've got the Spirit in our minds and on our hearts. So whatever comes out of us in works is the Spirit that we're possessing. Another way I like to look at those laws is if you had a filing cabinet and you put each commandment, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not covet. All of those laws that were given could be summed up into those 10 commandments. So each one of those each law is divided into there. For instance, on unclean foods. Since now we're the body or the temple of Christ, we now need to be mindful of what was put into the temple. Well, the Lord didn't want us sacrificing unclean animals on his altar. So it's probably smart to say that we probably shouldn't eat unclean because we are the temple of God now. And so we need to be mindful of what we put into our body. I've heard it said that we shouldn't drink because that keeps the Holy Spirit from dwelling in us, because the priests, when they would enter into the Holy of Holies, were not allowed to consume wine. And that's true. We need to be mindful of that. And if we are the temple of God and we are eating unclean after he has told us, hey, this isn't good for you, I've made your bodies, if you're going to eat pig or a rat, then might as well go and eat a vulture, because it's all in the same list. But I would think that would be more of us being considered, that would be under the category of idolatry, where it says that thou shalt have no other gods but God. So that's just kind of the spirit of the law that was given. And I know sometimes this can hang people up and they don't understand its concepts. They look so much towards the letter of the law and they miss the spirit that God was trying to portray to the children of Israel. In the sense that when the 12 tribes split, there were the 2 southern and 10 northern tribes. The northern tribes became exceedingly sinful. They were worshiping idols and sacrificing unto idols. And this was the reason why Christ came, because he had to die. He had to die so that he could remarry us again. Because if you go to Romans 7, it talks about the great mystery that that Paul's trying to get across to the children and his people. He says, "Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law hath dominion over a man as long as he liveth. For the woman which hath a husband is bound by the law to her husband so as long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that there is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Christ, that ye should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto God. For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sins, which were by the law, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. But now we are delivered from the law, that being dead, wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of spirit, and not in the oldness of the letter." So here, Paul is making reference to the fact that the law was intended for the spirit. It was the spirit of the law that we were to possess, and it was to help us grow to a more righteous, acceptable bride, per se. Anyways, he says right here, he says, "What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid, nay." He says, "God forbid, no. I had not known sin, but by the law. For I had not known lust, except the law said, Thou shalt not covet. But sin, taken occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead." So here he's saying, if we do away with this sin, Satan can't keep us in bondage anymore. We're no longer held to the bonds of the earth in the fleshly form, mindful. We are now in the spiritual. We are now the spiritual. Because what goes in spiritually is then manifested physically. But whereas Satan had us in bondage, and I think of like a bandage wrap all around our bodies, that we couldn't even see God for the fact that we had so much bondage of works that we had to think about and do, and we just weren't grasping it. He couldn't enter in the way that he was intended to. Anyways, I have more on this. I didn't get to say it all in this video, but if I keep on talking right now, then it's going to take forever to upload this video. So I'll get another video out as soon as I can. Thanks for watching, guys.